He was lucky. It was just words, too. If he'd touched her, I'd still be in prison. Shit, if Papa was there, he might have killed him anyway. But I just kicked his ass all over the place. And then I stuffed him in the car, and we drove away. "I know you ain't asleep," I said to him once we got on the highway. He was curled up on his side of the car, holding his busted face. "I'm only going to tell you this once. If you talk to her like that again, I'll beat the shit out of you again. I'll do it every time. You can lump it or try to change it, but that's the way it is." "Oh, hell, I didn't mean nothing by it," he slurred. "That was just that old whiskey talking." "That ain't no excuse," I said. "Nobody forced you to drink that stuff, and you'd better not ever do it again." Then I stopped talking and just drove, fuming. And I thought about that day 19 years ago when I saw Roy Acuff driving past the farm in his big air-cooled Franklin. I thought it must be just about the best thing on earth to ride in a car like that. Now I was driving down that same road, a Grand Ole Opry star in an automobile almost as nice, and it felt like I was suffocating, like I was being buried alive in it. Chapter 2. An Air-Cooled Franklin. It was a warm afternoon in early autumn. The sky was clear blue and the sun was shining down, but it wasn't burning hot like it had been most of the summer. Papa was using the mules to pull a stalk chopper in one of the fields we'd picked clean, cutting the cotton stalks into the ground. You couldn't till for the next crop of cotton unless you got rid of those stalks, and chopping them into the soil returned some of what the cotton pulled out. If there was any work at all Papa could find to do with the mules, he'd do it. He knew he had to keep them working if he wanted to make a living, just as he knew he had to keep his children working, too. He was a lean, hard, weather-beaten man, and even though he was only 5 foot 5 inches tall, he had a way about him that made him look at least twice as big. Even as hot as it was, he was wearing a long-sleeve shirt under his overalls, buttoned right up to the neck. I don't care if it was 105 degrees in the shade, he wouldn't wear nothing else. Once that shirt got wet with sweat, he'd look at anybody who had peeled off their shirt in the heat and say in a satisfied voice, "Well, now I'm cooler than you are, ain't I?" That was one of his beliefs, that once you got wet with sweat, your shirt would help you catch the breeze. My brother Ira and I were in another field picking the last of the season's cotton, pausing every few minutes to look over our shoulder for Roy Acuff's automobile to come tearing down the dirt road that ran by our farm. Ira was about 16, and I was 13, and we'd been waiting for the singer and fiddler since we pulled on our cotton sacks and walked out of the house at sunrise to begin the day's work. There was nobody bigger than Roy Acuff to Ira and I. We'd known that Roy Acuff would be driving past our house that day because Ed Watkins, who owned the mercantile store, had a radio in his living room. And the last Saturday, as soon as we got done in the cotton fields, Ira and I had run down to the Watkins house and joined all the other farmers on his porch to listen to the Grand Ole Opry. There was about 25 of us gathered in the dark of that porch, and then 25 more in the yellow light of Watkins' living room, leaning into his old radio. Everybody knew what artists were going to be on at what time, and when their favorites came on, they stubbed out their cigarettes and moved inside to hear them, while the folks who were done listening to their favorite got up and came outside. Everybody on the porch was just as quiet as those inside. The radio was a little thing, not much of a speaker on it, and you had to really listen to hear what was going on. We did, and as soon as we heard Acuff being announced, it was our turn to go inside. We sat down on the rug, just as close to the radio as we could get. Well, Acuff sang his songs, and we got up to leave. But just as we made it to our feet,